Hey everybody, it's been a minute since I've uploaded anything to this channel, and as a result I have a massive pile of CDs which are going to go into storage soon, which is why I'm recording this so that I can keep track of which ones have been recently added to the collection, that need to be added in iTunes, that need to be added in Discogs, that all the things that I do. To keep all my stuff organized and all of that. Anyway, everything that I'm about to show you has been picked up at Goodwill, not in the same haul, obviously, but a lot of these, got picked up just yesterday, as a matter of fact. Starting off with, an older pickup, but a really good one. Buena Vista Social Club, mandatory album, must own, but this is the one with the sleeve and the big thick booklet liner notes, and I didn't have this version. I do have another copy of it, but I don't have the deluxe packaging, so I had to pick it up because it was $1. Next up, I own it on vinyl, but I don't own a CD, and I'm trying to, make sure that I have multiple copies of everything, because why not crowd myself and my family out of our living space by owning too many of these kinds of things? Haha! But Marvin Gaye, What's Going On? Classic soul album, from one of the greatest soul singers ever. Next up, picked this one up in Tucson. This is a Tucson band, the Pistoleros. Now, just a little bit of fun information. It's also autographed. In the 90s, there were a lot of good bands coming out of Arizona. You had the Gin Blossoms, the Refreshments, the Pistoleros, Dead Hot Workshop, and others of lesser note, but of equal local love anyway. But yeah, Pistoleros, fun to find an album of theirs that I have not heard, and it's autographed, and I found it in Tucson because of course I did. Excuse me, I'm a bit sick. Alison Krauss, this is her greatest hits compilation, Now That I've Found You. I love her voice. She has one of the greatest all-time voices, just, smooth and silky. Got me some Lloyd Cole. This one I did not have. I love Lloyd Cole, both solo and with the Commotions. He's a very interesting songwriter, and I like him. And so if I find Lloyd Cole stuff, of course I'm going to pick it up. This one, I picked up before he died. Burt Bacharach died recently, and everyone has been collectively realizing that he wrote everything. He wrote so many great songs. And this is greatest hits compilation. This is, the same one. I have the same one on vinyl, but nice to have it on CD and pick it up at Goodwill for practically nothing. Don't forget that I am a drama teacher. That is true for the time being, for the moment, while I am still allowed to do so. The death threats have been happening lately. That's not a joke. It's literally true. But yeah, Hairspray. Love this kind of stuff. Absolutely have to have the film soundtrack, because the movie version of that musical is fantastic. Some musicals, they foul it up in the movie version. Les Mis, Cats, recent things. Quite frankly, I'm not a fan of Mamma Mia. Am I allowed to say that out loud? I think half of the people in that cast can't freaking sing. So yeah, it's a whole thing. Anyway, this next one is my first Vandergraaf Generator album. You know, just saw it at Goodwill and was like, I've always meant to get into this band. This is one of those ones that, like, you know, it's krautrocky, it's prog, it's like psychedelic-ish. Of course I'm gonna like it. I apologize for all the coughing that I'm about to do. This one, Dave Brubeck Quartet live with Paul Desmond in concert. I love Dave Brubeck. He's one of my all-time favorite jazz band leaders, arrangers, musicians, what have you. Oh my goodness. I might die. I might literally die before the video is over. But this is this water? No, of course there can't be water. The Jurassic 5 EP, the self-titled first thing Jurassic 5 put out. Take yourself back to the days of delightful indie underground hip-hop. Yes, please. Jurassic 5, like, amazing. Thank you. Wow. I just received from lovely wife Un Powerade to help me power through. Anyway, supported. Next up, we have some opera. Mario Lanza, one of the great what-ifs in opera history. What if he didn't have a massive drinking problem and dedicated himself more to the craft? Could he have been as good as the great Jussi Björling? He certainly had the gift, but, you know, that alcoholism was terrible. Anyway, but yeah, great operatic tenor, amazing voice, one of the greatest of all time. And, you know, an open question as to what, sorry, he could have accomplished sans alcohol. Anyway, the next two I just picked up yesterday, and I was so excited because it is one right there and two right there. The first two Electric Light Orchestra albums. Not the best ELO, but some of the, like, you don't always find these because people overlook them. They are good. They aren't as fully realized as later ELO albums, but they are quite good. Had to buy this. I'm a child of the 90s. The Reality Bites soundtrack is a must own. Like, you know, you've got your Liz Phair's on there, Juliana Hatfield, Lisa Loeb, Crowded House, Dinosaur Jr., Lenny Kravitz. You know, it's a soundtrack. This one I was very, very, very happy to get because I've known that this existed, but I did not personally own a copy, and that is Good Friend. This is Matthew Sweet, his classic album, Girlfriend. These are alternate takes and non-album tracks. So, you know, including, you know, things like covers of Cortez the Killer and stuff. Like, really looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome. I love Matthew Sweet. dying over here. The guy is dying over here. You may be asking yourself, why am I doing this right now when I have a massive cough? Why not wait until I don't have it? We are moving stuff to Tucson today. Like, not all of our stuff, but we have to be down there anyway for, you know, my wife has FBLA stuff that she has to be there for, and and a job interview, which we hope goes very well and results in us being able to live there. So we're moving stuff there as if it were already a fait accompli, because we can't live here anymore. I'm getting death threats, so obviously. Boom, everybody knows what this is. Sugar Cubes, I own it on vinyl, but I didn't own it on CD, had to get it. This one I might already own, but I bought it just in case I don't. The Jam Compact Snap, this is, you know, a greatest hits of the Jam. I love the Jam. I own so much Jam on vinyl, just because it kept getting traded in at the record store where I did all of my picking in the early days, and nobody else was buying it. So yeah, you know, when like all mod cons came in and they're like $4, and I'm like, you betcha $4. Try getting all mod cons for $4 now. Like, it's not, I mean, you can find copies of it, but for $4, bet. Anyway, Cracker. This is a band that, like, everybody is like, well, you need to finish your Camper Van Beethoven before you go Cracker. And I'm like, but I haven't, but would like to. Is that allowed? Anyway, when you find it at the thrift store, you're allowed to buy it. This I purchased mainly because one of my first ever gay students was super in love with this soundtrack and this movie, and like, it's how we knew he was gay. Was like, he was absolutely all about this movie. And we're like, this is a good movie. You've chosen well. It's totally gay of you to like that as much as you do. But yeah, he's a lovely human being. He's the kind of human being where, and there are very few of these in the world, but like, he's so smart and good and wildly competent, that if he were to run for public office, I wouldn't need to know which party he was in. I wouldn't need to know his platform. I wouldn't need to know anything else other than that he was running, and I would vote for him immediately. Carly Simon, I love early Carly Simon, not the biggest fan of later Carly Simon. So this album seems to be the earlier best of, focusing more on the early stuff, which is what I like. So because I do have those, like, the see-through dress one, the nipple sweater one. That's how people describe those albums. I know the see-through dress one is Anticipation. Don't remember the title of the nipple sweater one, but maybe it's just self-titled Carly Simon. I don't know. This one, João Gilberto live at Montreux. So yeah, the dude who like popularized Girl from Ipanema and many other, well, no, I'm thinking of Anyway, regardless, this dude, still, Brazilian music, you know, fantastic stuff. Yeah, because I'm thinking of, yeah, I'm thinking of someone else. Regardless, I'm not great at remembering my, Brazilian, music people in general, but I do like it, so at least there's that. Like, I don't remember their names properly, but when I see them, I'm like, I know that that's the guy that I like. Squeeze, singles 45 and under. Yeah, I love Squeeze, and this is the best possible way to get it. Like, their albums are, depending on which ones, like, honestly, I prefer Squeeze this way. I'll just tell you that. Because, like, there's no Squeeze song that I want to hear that is not on this album. And maybe that's just my short-sightedness of Squeeze, but, like, I'm perfectly fine with it just being that. And that's another one that I own on vinyl but didn't own on CD before now. I know that sounds braggadocious at this point, but, like, you have to remember that, like, when I started collecting vinyl, everything was used, and I was collecting, these guys were, like, hitting up estate sales and stuff. And that's where they were getting their vinyl, then selling it to me at a slight markup, and certainly not enough of a markup to stay in business indefinitely once Amazon started and whatnot. But, like, you know, so, like, I could get a copy of this on vinyl for nothing, you know, and enjoyed it. I was very happy with it. And so, like, at the time, I was like, I don't need to ever own it on CD. CDs are for new music, and records are for old music. Like, I didn't, like, for the first several years that I was collecting vinyl, I didn't have, like, recent stuff. People would be like, do you have anything recent? And I'd be like, what, you mean, like, from the 80s? Or from the 90s, like, oh my God, I found a copy of, you know, like, Gin Blossom's New Miserable Experience on vinyl. Check it out, man. Anyway, De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising. I might already own this, but there are some albums that when you see them in the wild, you're like, do I already own this? Because if I don't, I better get it. So, yeah, that's one of those. And, like, as always, if I already own it, it's going to go to a good home. Like, I will give it away. I even know who I would give it to. I know who would enjoy that. My sister-in-law loves the old school hip-hop. And so, like, that's where that would go if I've already got it. Same with this one, Rosillo's. I know I own this on vinyl. And I love it, and it's one of my favorite, punk bands of all time. Like, I love the Rosillos so much. Like, they're so much fun. They're everything I love about punk. You know, just so fun because, like, in addition to being wildly political and, like, protest and hard and, like, you know, all the other things that punk can be, like a soundtrack to skateboarding and, you know, all the other things it could be. Like, people forget that in the 1970s when punk was first coming out, some people were like, but it can be fun too. And the Rosillos, yeah, bands like the Rosillos and the Undertones and Toy Dolls. Oh my God, Toy Dolls. But yeah, you know, there were people out there who realized, like, no, we don't have to be so serious all the time. And I love that album. I couldn't just let it. So I probably already own it. And I know people that I could give that to if I already have a copy, which I probably do. The Go-Go's, yeah. And this is a promo copy. But yeah, Go-Go's Greatest Hits, you know, great 80s band, you know. Who you take, Go-Go's or the Bengals? Because the real question is who you gonna take? Belinda Carlisle, who, like, let us not forget that Belinda Carlisle, in addition to, like, because when people saw this band, they were like, well, one of these women is, like, they're all pretty cute, but one of them is way prettier than the rest. And she's super talented, and, like, used to be, like, a drummer, well, is still a drummer, but, like, was a drummer in a punk band, man. Like, super cool. She's lived an interesting life. But yeah, the hardest question, you know, for me, is not, do I take Kirk or do I take Picard? Picard, of course, duh. The hardest question for me is, do I take Susanna Hoffs or Belinda Carlisle? Now, lucky for me, that is not something that will ever happen, but who do I prefer of the two? I don't know. That's a hard question. But yeah, Go-Go's, good stuff. This is a fun one to have found. Free, self-titled, Free. Like, great cover art, you know, really good 70s rock. Yeah, good stuff. There was another Free, there was the Free story. Like, there was a greatest hits compilation of Free, and I opened it up and I checked the disc and it was wrecked. And I was very sad because there was another one. I had to leave a Nick Lowe. There was Nick Lowe rare and unreleased stuff, but the disc was just sad when that happens. It makes me very sad. Medeski, Martin, and Wood, because I am a lame mid-40s jam band dad, and this is the freewheeling jazz band that cargo pant wearing jam band dads. This is the jazz band that we listen to. So, but it's really good. But also, as a totally lame jam band dad, I recognize that, like, there are a lot of people who are never going to appreciate Medeski, Martin, and Wood, simply because their fan base is, like, dudes who look like me wearing cargo shorts and gray New Balance and being like, these guys, wow, they really go for it, don't they? You know, like, that is not a recipe for widespread success, is, like, guys like me being your biggest fan. That's not gonna get you to the top of the charts. This next one, I shouldn't even have to. This is 3 discs of Otis Redding, because of course it is. I own this same compilation digitally and have enjoyed it for many years now. It's about damn time that I own the actual discs, and I got them for a couple of bucks. Does not hurt. Danny Elfman, film score music. I mean, we got Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Oh, he did the Darkman soundtrack? I didn't know that. Anyway, Big Top Pee-wee? Oh, he came back for the sequel. All right, then. Tales from the Crypt, The Forbidden Zone. Like, yeah, I mean, not all the films he worked on are winners, but the soundtracks sure are. Here's another one that I'm, oh, come on. Oh, bro. Lego. Lego my ego. Okay, apparently I didn't get the residue off of that other one as much as I thought, but Peter Gabriel's So, I definitely own this on vinyl. I might own it on CD, but it's a good one. And I mean, it's the most commercially available, or like commercially successful and accessible Peter Gabriel. I love Peter Gabriel. I also enjoy Phil Collins. I know that you're supposed to go one or the other, but like, I mean, if I had to choose, I would take Peter Gabriel. If I had to only have one, I would take Peter Gabriel, because obviously. But be that as it may, Phil Collins is still pretty great. Anyway, yeah. And when you find a multi-disc complete Decca recordings of Patsy Cline, oh, you picked that Mamma Jam up. These discs are pristine. It's, yeah, really good shape. This is not my only Bee Gees Greatest Hits compilation, but I will have you know, I am undefeated in disco dancing competition. This is a fact about the world that exists, that is true. You can feel about it however you like, but when I was in high school in the 1990s, I was the weird kid, the drama kid who was like, I'm going to become very good at disco dancing, which meant that I listened to a lot of Bee Gees. And people freaking hated the Bee Gees back then, but like, I beat Jimmy Fallon to that punch by a freaking mile. So yeah, you know, there aren't that many things that, in this world that I could be like, oh, I was on that way super early. I mean, no, granted, there are things that I can say that about. It's hard to get people to care that I was onto that. But like, I don't like Jimmy Fallon, so yeah, oh, lord that over him. When we meet, which we will, I was raised on old school country because I am a hick from the sticks, and I have to leave the sticks because I'm not Republican enough for the sticks, and they are threatening my life as a result. Fun, the country we live in. Anyway, regardless, Marty Robbins, 2 discs of his excellence, all about it. Like, can't have enough Marty Robbins, that's for darn sure. I got it. This is the one garbage album I didn't own, and I hated this album because there's a song on this album that used to be, still is, you can go back and play it right now, the soundtrack to NHL 2002 from EA Sports. It's in the game. Anyway, regardless. Thing is, the song from this album would play every time you went to the menu, and it drove me crazy. Just because you overplay any song eventually, because I played a ton of NHL 2002 back in 2002. Anyway, this one I was very happy to get. 2 discs of Peggy Lee and Benny Goodman. Whoo, there you go. There's some fun times there. Peggy Lee, great singer, underrated. You know, sweet set of pipes on that one. She could really lay down a jazz tune. And Benny Goodman, like, ultimate swing dude of all time. That's what he's known for, is like hitting that swing jazz super hard. And last but not least, this is one that, like, I had to check and be like, do I really not own this? But I didn't. And that is Clapton Chronicles. You gotta own your Clapton Chronicles, because I own Clapton in many other formats, but not Chronicles on CD. Anyway, two other recent pickups that I wish I could show you. I can't, but if you're a gearhead, you can look this up. Is that I picked up a sweet automatic turntable from the 1970s, wood grain everywhere, of course, and like big clicky switches on the thing. It's automatic. It is a realistic, which means that it's a Radio Shack brand. But like, if you know, like realistic, a lot of their stuff, they were just rebranding other people's stuff. And some of the people they were rebranding were like Techniques, Audio Technica. Like, they were rebranding big name stuff. Just people won't, like, people are like, oh, it's Radio Shack. No, this, it's a Lab 420, LAB 420. Lab 420, bruh. You know, but like, for real, look this turntable up. And mine is in perfect, like, this sat in somebody's grandma's basement for forever, and then somebody just dug it up and was like, let's give it to Goodwill. And then I got it and I tested it at Goodwill. All the switches, the repeat work, like everything works perfectly. I do need to get in there and just like re-lube the gears and whatnot, things, you know. It's direct drive, so I don't have to check the belts or anything, but like, thing is perfect. And I did make a video about it, but that video was bad. Like, there was some squealing in the background for some reason. I couldn't figure it out. The audio on my phone went all wonky and terrible. The other thing I picked up, so like, I have 3 vintage receiver, well, no, 2 vintage receivers and an integrated amp, all of which are highly sought after, amazing pieces of kit. I've got a Marantz 2265, I've got a Marantz 2252B, but both of those are out of commission because they are having issues and they need to be serviced. And there's no one in my area who can service them. Maybe when we move, I will find someone who will be like, yes, I will take care of your babies for you. I did find a guy in California who will do it. So if nothing else, I'll take a multi-hour drive to California, just be like, hey buddy, can you do the thing? Because yeah, I need it, you know. Anyway, I also have my wife purchased for me. She was there, like, she was at Goodwill one time without me, and she's like, okay, there's this thing. It is brushed aluminum and wood grain. Do you want it? And I was like, okay, what is it? Because if it's like an 8-track player, then no. If it's one of those ugly, like, big multi-units that you get from Sears that's awful, like, no. Because there are things that are wood grain and brushed aluminum that are lies. And then there are things that are wood grain and aluminum that are like, you know. And this is one of them. It is a Kenwood KA7002, which is an integrated amplifier that is like just gorgeous. And it has like detents on all the switches and stuff, like heavy ones, like kerchunk. Kerchunk. That's you turning up the volume. This thing has kerchunk on the volume. And it has kerchunk on all the selectors and on you adjusting the EQ settings. It's kerchunk everywhere. And it's wood grain and brushed aluminum which is like, ooh, you know, like seriously, go take a look at those old Kenwood integrated amplifiers and tell me that it's not a thing of beauty. Anyway, it is, but it also is now having problems. And so, because my wife bought it for me because she's like, oh, your 2 vintage receivers are on the fritz, maybe this one can help out. And it did for a while. And then it was like, I'm not used to daily working. And then it just died kaput. The other day, I was at the Goodwill, and what did they have? They had another piece of wood grain and brushed aluminum that said Sansui on the front. And I've never owned Sansui stuff other than a tape deck, but like a BPC, you know, 80s, not the same as wood grain and brushed aluminum Sansui. Anyway, so, but this is the bottom of the line Sansui. This is like the beginners. They're like, oh, you want a Sansui, but like, you don't want to spend a lot of money on it. That's this. But it is in immaculate condition. Like, it is in perfect shape. Like, I literally, like, when I tested it out, all the pots had a little crackle in them. And I was like, I can clean that up. But all the functions worked fine. And I was like, except for the lamps are all burnt out. You know, because usually you have that big glass front. This would all be better with visuals, but I'm not moving the setup around to like show you things because this room is a mess because we are currently boxing up our house to move. Anyway, so anyway, but yeah, the big glass front on these old receivers, they all light up. It doesn't matter who makes it, Pioneer, Marantz, you know, Sansui, whomever, they light up. Well, I got into this one and I'm like, I don't see the lamps. And I'm like, oh, because it's bottom of the line that doesn't have any. And the other funny thing about it is that it's a short boy. It only takes up like 2/3 of the wood grain case or of its own chassis. And so on the back of the wood grain case, like there's big empty space and then all of the inputs are on the bottom. They're not like vertically facing you. They are horizontal. But they all, on the back of the amplifier, it has a diagram showing you what all the inputs are, which is really handy. But also it's weird. It's a weird little monkey, but I cleaned it up. I just deoxidated it and just, you know, worked everything back and forth, and it sings like an angel. You know, it's only 20 watts, but these are 20 old school watts. And if you know your old school watts versus RMS watts are like, how many watts can you push through it before it explodes on the test bench? That's how we measure wattage today. Back in the day, back in the 1970s, because like my 2265, when working perfectly, it will blow like a, I don't know, 1,000 watt amp out of the room, no problem. Like, easy, but it's rated for 65 watts. And that is because it will give you 65 watts all day, every day, no matter what, rain or shine. Well, maybe don't operate it if it's, you know, if you're outside and it's raining, but stay inside and listen to records. There you go. Anyway, I am dragging this on too long with nothing that has any visuals. Clapton Chronicles again? I don't know. Anyway, regardless, I'm going to revisit this video later so that I know which CDs need to be added and whatnot. But thanks for being here and hanging out and whatnot. And I will see you in the next one, my friends. Oh. Okay, bye.